Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about overcoming nasal passages and deviated septums, and I will try to minimize the amount of times that I plug my nose up like that, although it does sound kind of funny and I do look kind of ridiculous, right? But what is not ridiculous, well, I guess it is rather ridiculous, is just how much a tiny block or narrowing of a already kind of small passageway throughout your nasal cavity can absolutely ruin your life. It just can, okay? Because a lot of people, when they're told they have sleep apnea, there's a whole big list of how did I get here, and some of that involves your nose, okay? Whether it is a enlarged turbinate, okay, that's on the inside there. Think of it like an enlargement on the inside of a wall, or a deviated septum. Those are gonna be the two things that I want to talk about today and share with you. One, some truth on that because a lot of times we get told things by our doctors in medicine that's not necessarily true. Okay. And if I'm bouncing around a lot on the screen here, I'm trying to find a good spot to settle in. Okay. So, with that, I want to dive into these nasal cavities. I just said it there. I want to dive in to nostrils and stuff. So, follow with me. And once you do, because what I'm going to go over is yes, why this happens, why it's not necessarily a surgical fix, and also what you can do about it here, okay, to help you get started and set a good goal for you. All right. So, in terms of how you know when you're making progress with that. So, let's dive in. So, with the two big things, I guess really they're small things at the end of the day. We got your nasal cavity, okay? We'll say passage, okay? And then also the septum is a secondary issue here, all right? This is the big category in your mind here. Because if you have one of these, a nasal passage issue would be, let's say this is your nasal passageway, right? And an enlarged turbinate would be, you got this going on here, okay? Or this could also not only be an enlarged turbinate, this could be something like um, rhinitis, okay, or even sinusitis, okay, whether it's allergies or you have chronic sinus infections that'll then cause inflammation through your sinuses and then find its way towards your nasal cavities here, okay. And my handwriting is awful, but just know that says turbinate and rhinitis here. And the reason this is a really big principle here, any small reduction in airspace has a big change on the resistance to airflow. Don't believe me? Go get a straw. Try to breathe through it. It's not fun. It's not easy. And how this actually works, I'm going to simplify an equation here. But essentially, resistance is inversely proportionate. Oh my God, we're doing like physics here. To the fourth power. That's huge, okay? So, what that means, if you were to do the math, if we change the radius of your airway, just here, by 0.3 centimeters, guess what? How much will that change the resistance in your airway? Okay? You can guess in the comments below. I encourage that because I'm just curious how many people are really good at math and physics and all that stuff. But essentially, a change in 0.3, if you go 0.3 more, that can double, okay, the resistance. Okay? So what I mean by that is if you have like the radius, like say this radius is reduced by 0.3, this will double the resistance to airflow. Okay, so small change, 0.3 centimeters. That's like the. I actually did look this up. It's about. Well, not look it up. I actually measured it. It's about 3 flashcards. That's how small of a change that is. Or this is also equal to the edge of a credit card here. Okay, so that's pretty small, but it has a big impact, okay, on resistance. Another way to think about it, if you double the resistance, you half the airflow. Not fun, okay? Because whenever you have more resistance, now your body can't breathe as easily, and then it's going to trigger over breathing, and then that's going to cause a whole slew of issues. Because when you're over breathing at night, that's going to cause your airways to collapse more, okay? And then that's going to wake you up time and time and time again. And then when you're not sleeping right, like you're constantly waking up, That's why you're foggy headed in the morning, where you just can't like even think. You're tired as all heck, and like it's 11 a.m. and you're already asking yourself, how am I going to get through this day? Okay, that's what happens when you're breathing through a compromised nasal passage. So that's why a lot of times the idea with surgery is to just like pretty much just take a rotor router and just kind of go through this, just like that. Okay. Well, I guess it would be technically an eraser, but I don't think I've ever used the eraser function on this. See if this does it. So this would be the rotor router here. Is this going to work? It's such a good eraser. It just doesn't even erase. Oh, that was a fortuitous effort. Yeah. All right. Well, either way, it would be we're getting rid of all of that sort of stuff in here. Okay, just like how this has completely ablated my ability to even use the whiteboard. So I'm gonna hit refresh here. Just hope that works. Okay, so pineapple. I'm just gonna edit that shit out. All right, so lesson pineapple. Lesson learned. I'm just never gonna do that again. So rotor router surgery would take this out of the equation here. Now, on paper, that should get rid of our problem, right? That should just clear up our nasal passageways and allow us to breathe again. But what does the research show? Pineapple. But what does the research show? Pineapple. Pineapple. So here I have a big old file of a bunch of stuff here, but nonetheless, the point of this is that 2022, okay, researchers looked at a bunch of different studies, 21 studies, and they wanted to see how effective this nasal surgery was to reduce turbinates or otherwise similar things. They found that in 21 studies, okay, this isn't 21 people, this is 21 studies where in each study, anywhere from 10 to more than 100 patients were included. Overall, okay, this surgery of just clearing things out led to minimal improvements, okay? I'll just read it here to you. Maybe I should zoom in here. The majority of the included studies reported no significant reduction in the apnea-hypopnea index, or AHI, after isolated nasal surgery in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. But wait, are we literally not told, like, this is the exact problem? So what gives? What is really the problem here? What really is the problem is that, again, I kind of already gave you the answer to this, but we'll just hit it again. What the problem is that when you have this going on, this drives resistance to airflow way up. Your body compensates and tries to over breathe. Then, even if you clear this out, okay, let's say you do Control Z on your nose. Even if you clear this out, you are left with over breathing. Just like I am over breathing right now because I am just beyond excited to share this with you. Just this morning I woke up and I was really excited about talking about noses. Over breathing, okay? And when you over breathe, that's actually what leads to the collapse of your airways. Because guess what? When you have a tight nasal passage, guess what? Where does the block in your airway actually occur? It's not in your nose. It's actually more in your, towards the back of your throat there, okay? Like if you say ah and open up, it's like kind of back in there, right? Sort of in the back of your mouth there. That's where the actual obstruction happens. Not in your nose, okay? Interesting. So it's this anatomical deficit that then leads to a compensation in your body to overbreathe. So if you just fix the overbreathing, then almost doesn't matter what's going on with your nose. But we'll talk about what to do about noses in a moment here. Okay. That's the real thing. Okay. Like when people miss out on this is when like you're getting surgery, trying a CPAP, nasal strip, like all these different things. And the problem persists. And you just feel like you've done all like 5, 10 things available to do for sleep apnea, and you're just feeling like you're at an absolute loss and just stuck in this rut of not having enough time, not having motivation, not having any energy doing something, and like now you're just forced to live in this like shell of an existence that's been given to you by the medical society who doesn't understand this. It's no way to live life, and you don't have to keep going on like this. Because once you know this core thing, you can address it, breathe more easily at night, and actually start to wake up and just feel like you actually just slept. Okay, just from fixing this issue. Now, I want to cover septums here because it would be a little bit of a deviated conversation if I didn't. That was such a bad pun. No one laugh at that. Do not support that kind of behavior. So with a septum, it causes a similar issue. So think of a septum as you're on a highway. Okay? Pretty simple. Ideally, this highway is divided like this. Okay? And then there's like a merger here. Okay? Usually, it's fine because if we think about like really this highway, like this comes from neighborhood A, this comes from neighborhood B. Okay, and it's nice and even. But what happens if you make this? If you do this, you deviate this divider. Okay? Just kind of fill it all in. You will have a traffic jam here. Okay? Yes, you will have like more, well actually you may not have increased flow here. Most times when there's deviated septum, it's not increased flow, decreased flow, it's normal flow and decreased flow. So like nothing really changes over here. Okay? But again, if you lose half of this airway, you lose a lane, okay? In our everyday life, where it's linear, right? Like one lane plus one lane equals 2 lanes of traffic, right? But remember this equation, can't forget our math over here. When you reduce the radius anywhere, it's going to dramatically increase the resistance. And then again, it just brings us back to this overbreathing and pattern that will persist despite you getting your septum all straightened out. Okay? Again, that's what was in that study. They looked at turbinate reduction and also septal shaving, or all the different things you can do to a septum. Okay? So that's what goes on here. Okay? There is a superficial issue that we think is just a problem. We try to cut it out, and then we're left hoping and feeling that we would get some sort of response, but we didn't. This is why so many of these nasal surgeries or septum surgeries, they're not covered by insurance for the most part. Many times they're elective. And that's because they're really not a surefire. They're not even close. There's only so many ways you can spin 0 to 10% improvement after surgery. Okay? Like if I had an infection on my fingertip and we were going to cut it off, I would pray to God that was a very high percentage of working. So when it doesn't work, you got to ask yourself, there is a understanding that is wrong here at the core. Okay? So again, comes down to that overbreathing pattern here. Now, in the meantime, because you still have this increased resistance, we need to talk about how to fix that. Okay? So in terms of fixing that, all right? Fixing nasal breathing here. It's pretty simple. All right? So you can do this along with me. There's kind of 2 ways you can do it. One, in normal breathing, everyday life, well, I guess maybe you wouldn't want to be seen doing this. Maybe take 10 minutes or so, or even when you're laying down in bed. When you're not inhaling or exhaling, okay, say if you're doing box breathing or something like that, you have moments where you pause breathing. Just simply do the following. Say you inhale, and then pause, breathe, and then as you pause, do this. Hold your nose. Don't hold my nose. Hold your nose. All right? And then when you need to inhale, oh, sorry, exhale. Sorry. Let's do that again. You inhale, hold your nose, and then you exhale. Let go. Okay? The mechanical, the pressing down of my fingertips here, what that does is compresses blood vessels inside of your nasal passages, and then that will lead to the release of nitric oxide, which is a vasodilator, which will open up your passages a little bit more here. Okay? And then that reduces airflow. Sorry, reduces resistance to airflow, to increase airflow, make it easier. And can help you reduce overbreathing. Okay? And that's one thing that you can literally do tonight. Or you even do it because sometimes people, when they have really bad nasal passage issues, doing this during the daytime is also helpful. Okay? And as you're doing this, the big goal for you should be, pretty simple here. Easy default, okay, nasal breathing. My handwriting could not get worse. It could, but let's not test that out. All right, you're probably trying to zoom in on your device. The goal with this is to get to a mode where breathing through your nose day and night, active and during rest, especially when active, that nasal breathing should be easy in a default automatic pattern for you. You shouldn't have to think twice about it. And again, easy, no resistance. And that will come from doing this, okay? And just practicing it more and more and more, okay? Now, there's a lot of other things you can obviously do for it. Maybe you've already done this as well, but still continuing to do that will help with that nitric oxide release here, okay? And there's going to be a lot of other things you can do, whether it's other types of breathing exercises, reducing inflammation in your body with a lot of different aspects. But just for now, just know, when you get to easy default nasal breathing, that is a great milestone for you. That is a sign you are moving in the right direction. Because when we're working with our patients, having like this as if nasal breathing is a problem, this is one of our benchmarks here. We have other ones for breathing, right? Like having a relaxed pause of 30 seconds, being able to sleep without a CPAP or any sort of like, mouth tape or mouth guard, like being free of all that. Those are our goals, right? But this is one interim goals many time for people. Okay, so that is your nosy business for today. I had to think of an awful pun to leave you with here. And before we leave, a few things for you. First, a word from our sponsor, who is me. I am the sponsor of this episode. And one thing you can check out, especially learn more about breathing here, if you want to go to the Sleep Apnea Freedom series, this one here, okay? Episode 3 will have more about breathing. So you just click on this. Now, what's the link to this? Probably should have told you that. I'll tell you I'll tell you now. It is ochnow.com/SA freedom. This is case sensitive, by the way. So don't type in freedom with a capital F. Tried it out before. Just want to make sure that didn't have that little hiccup there. Okay, so check that out. Episode 3 will probably be great. Or really, there's a whole bunch of them in here. 7, I believe. Yeah, 7 in there. So check that out. Will be a great one. And now, because maybe you've been with us, you've been doing things a while. Maybe you've been striving towards those goals. You've been having some frustration in getting there. You're not getting there quickly, or you just feel like you've hit a wall entirely, and you're like, okay, I need some help here. Okay, so if that's you, like you're someone who's been taking action, you're really committed to fixing this and being able to have rock solid sleep where you're waking up, you're feeling refreshed, and you have energy and mental clarity the entire day is an absolute must for you. Okay, not like would kind of nice to be, or like, I'm kind of okay with that. It has to be a must for you. If that's the case, then I'm willing to give you some of my time as part of a free one-on-one evaluation call. So again, I only got so much time in the day. So if you're someone who you can beat sleep apnea naturally, okay, you're already taking action of some sort, and you fully own your health, like it is your priority. It's not like when it's convenient, right? And And again, if that's not you, then check out the video series. That's great. But if it is you, then I would like to offer you a free one-on-one evaluation call. Okay, so 45-minute call, identify your biggest issues, map out your health goals, and explore the best paths to help get you there. Okay, that link is this one, ochnow.com/talk. Okay, and once you get there, it will look like, I think I got it pulled up here. It'll look like this. It's just a form. It's like, hey, what are your main issues? And then you just type them up. And then there's a few other questions talking about stressors, etc., all that good stuff. So I'm able to know, okay, well, what do we need to hone in on here? Okay, so those are, let me see. Oh, yeah, you got this one, and then the link there. So ochnow.com/talks. Go ahead, check them out, and I will see you soon.